Hi, I'm Joni Patry, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Well, today I want to talk about Mercury going retrograde. Guess when it goes retrograde? April 1st. And I find that ironic that it kind of lands on April Fool's Day. Boy, will we be in for a big surprise, because when Mercury changes directions, you know what happens? People change their minds. Things shift and start to move in a backwards motion. So what is Mercury retrograde? This is probably the most talked about thing in astrology. It's so ridiculous, really, because this is what people associate with knowing something deep about astrology, Mercury retrograde. So what does that mean? In our transit around the sun, it just means like when planets kind of pass each other in their rate of speed and velocity, that the planets appear to go backwards from our vantage point on Earth, but you know they really don't. But whatever that planet is that starts to go backwards, then that planet becomes a focal point. Did you know in Vedic astrology, retrograde planets are actually said to be stronger? Because everything that they represent becomes more of a challenge or an issue, because it's saying, look at me, I'm going a different direction. You need to focus on what I rule and what I'm all about. So what is Mercury all about? Well, before I get there, let me just remind everyone before I forget to sign up for my free newsletter. My free newsletter, go to my website, galacticcenter.org. And when you sign up for it, you get all of my predictions delivered weekly, free to your email. So go to galacticcenter.org. And while you're there, check out my Patreon page. I am so proud of it because we are a community. We come together twice a week, 2 different days. I offer classes. One is a question and answer, Ask Your Astrologer, and it's live. The other one is Shooting Stars, where we look to how we're going to change personally our lives to be happy, find what we need in life. This is a spiritual practice every week that changes lives. You'll hear it from the people there at my Patreon page. It changes lives. So that's that. And last but not least, I have a university. If you want to be my student, learn Vedic astrology, go to universityofvedicastrology.com. Now, talking about Mercury retrograde, on April 1st, when it turns retrograde, it's going to be 3 degrees of Aries. I find it so interesting that throughout this year, now this is the case, Mercury within a year's time will go retrograde in the same element. And this year, it retrogrades in fire and backs up into water. Now, next year, it'll be primarily water. But what does this mean? It means there's a transition, a change from fire disposition to emotional water. That's what you're going to see a big trend to. Now, it's going to go retrograde at 3 degrees of Aries, which will be in the nakshatra Ashwini. Ashwini moves fast. It's a fast, and it deals with transit. So Mercury dealing with transit, this could, and Mercury always does, screw up traveling. Why? Let me tell you why. Because it's a karaka, which means indicator of travel. And everything that Mercury rules becomes a major focus, because Mercury, when it goes retrograde, means you've got to review things, get back, look at how things can be improved. So as I always say, it's everything to do with RE, review, reassess, recheck, everything, but most of all, reflect. So this is what Mercury retrograde's about. Mercury rules the thinking mind. That's why when it goes retrograde, we start becoming absent-minded. Things go backwards in our mind. Our thinking process isn't the same. So we get confused. And when we're making plans with people, we'll screw up and tell them the wrong time to meet. Or our computers or our phones go haywire. Or when you're traveling, the computers go crazy in the airports, or even machinery goes haywire, so your car could break down. The mechanicals on airplanes, there's all sorts of delays for that. There's going to be delays for weather. This will be Mercury's retrograde for 3 weeks. So it is retrograde from April 1st, and it goes direct April 25th. So just about 3 weeks. And for the most part, it's going to be in Pisces. So it's going to start out in Aries, but it's going to backtrack into Pisces by April 9th. So April 9th till the time it goes direct, it will be in Aries. And actually it'll be in Pisces. So actually from April 9th till May 10th, Mercury will be in Pisces. So right now it's in Aries, but by April 9th, it will back into Pisces, where it will remain till May 10th. Then it'll go back into Aries. But the whole time it's in Pisces, let me explain something really important here. It's debilitated in Pisces. That's the worst sign it can be in. So it means that we're going to be more absent-minded, more mess-ups with confusion and our direction. And it's going to become really, really intense, I'm afraid, because Mercury is going to also conjunct Rahu at 21 degrees, and that Rahu is at 21 degrees from the eclipse energy. That's where Rahu is during the eclipse, 21 degrees of Pisces. So Mercury is going to conjunct Rahu on April 25th. Well, really, it's going to be about the 23rd through the 26th that it's exactly conjunct Rahu, give or take a day. But when it goes direct, it is conjunct Rahu. Rahu expands and makes things more intense. And Rahu is a malefic, so it's extremes. And if you think of Mercury ruling the thinking mind, people will be off the charts exaggerating things, thinking things that are outlandish, crazy, don't make any sense. This is what I'm seeing with this Mercury retrograde. This is an important retrograde. So Mercury, as it goes backwards, it comes together with the sun, crosses over the sun. That will be April 11th. And that is its inferior conjunction. So that's another thing that causes foul-ups and screw-ups. So that's going to be when Mercury's at its deepest, darkest retrograde, when it's conjunct the sun. But one thing I failed to mention, that's another thing that makes this Mercury off the charts crazy, is that it's going to be Gandanta a few days after it turns retrograde, because it's going to be 0 degrees of Aries. Then, and that's the time of the full moon, which is happening on the 23rd. Then we have Mercury back up to 29 degrees of, yes, Pisces. So that is terribly Gandanta. That represents storms and disruption, travel plans that will go haywire because of storms. Watch how this all happens. But one saving grace, I will say, is that Mercury's coming together with Venus. Now, here is a rule in Vedic astrology. It works to a certain degree, but not totally and completely. And that is, Venus in Pisces is exalted, and Mercury in Pisces is debilitated. But when you put a debilitated planet together with an exalted planet, they say that it cancels the debilitation. I don't think it's ever completely canceled, but I do think there's upliftment. So Mercury will conjunct Venus April 19th. Now they're kind of in a planetary, what we call war that day, but around that time when it gets close to Venus, its energy will feel a lot better. It won't be the crazy minds thinking exaggerated, insane things. So the media, everything that Mercury rules is going to be off the charts insane. And that Mercury rules the media, communications, travel, the thinking mind, all of that is going to be all messed up. It's like the wires are all crossed and there's sparks everywhere. So it's going to be intense. And then even while Mercury, at least when Mercury turns direct, well, I don't know if it's at least, Mars is going to come take its place in Pisces. So this Mercury retrograde, I'm afraid, is going to be one of the most intense ones. Plus, we're coming out of an eclipse. We're in a solar eclipse period. We're in the eclipse season. So this makes it much, much, much more intense and insane. So I just wanted to give you a warning. Because you know what? If you really try to avoid travel as much as you can. Now, remember, I used to be a flight attendant, and you have to go to work when Mercury's retrograde, right? I just came prepared. I'd bring a lot of books and a lot of things to do because I knew there was going to be delays. No big deal. I wasn't really inconvenienced. I got a lot done. So be prepared. That's all I want to say for that. And the other thing is when you're making plans, because we can't just stop living when Mercury goes retrograde. When you make plans, double check things. And remember this, Mercury retrograde is good for review, reassessing things, getting things right. It's not usually the time to forge forward with something big and grander plans. You've got to pull back and reassess things so that you're ready for when Mercury is moving forward out of the shadow phase. And then things will really start working. But it's a time for review and most of all, reflection. Sometimes I think it's great to go on vacation when Mercury's retrograde because that's the time that you should be sitting back, relaxing and reflecting, not planning anything new. The only problem is getting from one destination to another sometimes is a little tricky with delays and its own problems, but it's a time for review. Use this energy for what it's good for and avert things of what it could cause in the way of problems. And just remember, you're going to be more forgetful. Double check everything and you'll be glad you did. So with that, I think I'll close. If you would like more information on me, if you would like a reading, if you would like to join my Patreon page, be part of our community, go to galacticcenter.org. And remember, if this has inspired you to want to learn astrology, I have the best online school out there. Join our community of astrologers. Go to universityofvedicastrology.com. Thank you.